Okay guys, we've got another ViperSharp video here coming at you. We are going to talk about doing a mirror edge on a Spyderco Manix Cruwear. So stay tuned and let's see what we can do to make this thing shine. So I had a neighbor ask me if I can put a mirror edge on Cruwear on his Spyderco, and I said sure, I would love to. And so we will go through that and show you the process. And in this I should be able to give some good details on lapping films. So placing the knife in the jaws on this, we're going to do one of these straight lines following the front of that between the heel and the tip, more or less. And that doesn't have to be exact or anything, but we've got a fairly straight edge here, so we don't have to worry about any crazy curves or recurves or anything like that. And so a pretty standard placement should fit there. We will be using the lapping films in the end, but first we're going to sharpen this thing up. Let's see if I can grab my Sharpie here. And so first step, we want to make sure that we've got our edge marked real well. And we'll draw on the underside as well. And then we want to set our stops so that we are not getting in trouble there. We're going to start on this side actually. There we are. All right, and then estimate that angle. And of course, changing the angle is going to change where that goes, so we might need to adjust that a little bit. The angle's a little different from tip to heel. Although my lighting might be affecting some of that. And I kind of noticed that as I first started on this. We got a thinner edge back here than we do up here. So factory edge, it does have a little variation on that edge. So we're going to take that out first. So we've got our edge where we need to be. Let's start with a 250 stone. No need to have oil in there. So get that out of there. And get some oil on our 250 grit stone. We are working with Cruwear. This is not your cheap line of stainless steel. We've got a pretty good steel going here. So it will take a little bit of work to get that reprofiled. And the only place that we really need that profile is just right at the heel here the only place that needs to be changed, and so I'm carefully working on that. Do not put any downward pressure on the knife. There's no need for pushing on this stone. Let the stone and the weight of the stone do the work. Flip it over. Work on the other side there. And we'll work on both of those till we get it where we need it. Now, one thing I notice here is we do have quite a difference in the angle from one side to the other. So let's see if we can point that out here. Focus. All right. So if you look at that tip, and I'll adjust it here a little bit more. See if I can hold it still. So you can see quite a difference in the angle on that. One side is steeper than the other. So we've got a decision to make here on how much reprofiling we want to do, and I think what I'm going to do is try and take enough off on this side to match that. Been out of focus that whole time. Yeah, that's just wonderful, huh? Apologize for that. So we're getting there. We're definitely apexing. All the way along the blade. We got a very good apex, a very good burr, all the way back to right there. And then that little oddity at the back with that different angle on the heel of the blade. Still needs a little bit of work on this side as well. But that edge is pretty close to matching now. I think we've still got a remnant of the last angle on the tip there, but we're getting real close. We're going to flip it over and remove that burr. Listen for that. Hear that? Quite a burr there. Now the burr's gone. Well, for the most part, I did feel it a little bit more there. And now it's gone on the front half, and it looks like we've probably got it gone on that back. And this side really only needs work on the back there on the heel of the blade. The rest of that's pretty good. Check for our burr. We got a good burr there. I didn't even tighten that in there. Alright, and then we'll flip it over. Remove the burr. Now I'm going to work on, I'm looking at that. I wish I could do a close-up for you guys, but that heel right there is what I'm working on. And I think that's got it pretty good. The tip still has a little bit of the old angle there. So we'll work a little more to get that out. And in the end, you'll end up with a knife blade that has a nice uniform shape and look to it. Okay. Now we're going to take the 250 off here, and I'm going to clean that up for next time. And we'll move on up to our 400 grit. When you're dealing with stones or steels, as it is with the diamond here, the higher the number, the more fine it is. When we get into our lapping films, the lower numbers are more fine because they use microns. Now if we want to mirror this edge, really get it nice and sparkling mirror, then that's going to be a lot easier to do with those lapping films if we've done a good job with each level of stone working up to it, because these diamonds are going to leave little tiny striations in the edge. And so we've got to make sure to remove the 250 grit striations with our 400, and then remove the 400 finer marks with the 600, and then finally with the 1200 remove those. And 1200 does a pretty fine job, and then we move on to stropping and lapping. We do still have a little bit of a variation at the heel there. But it does look like it's apexing. So at this point, well, we are creating a little bit of a burr. It's a finer burr. And for the most part, what we're looking to do is just get that edge refined so that we can lap it, polish it, shine it up. We'll just take a few passes there to remove that burr. And once you've done the hard work with the harder grits, we can move on up, and it's a little faster completing the rest of it. Clean that stone again for storage. Make sure it's all clean for next time. And set that in our stone holder. We will take the 600 grit. I like to leave that ball loose because it gives me more control. It's more ergonomic to have it that way and be able to really flow with things. That was a little dirty from last time, so we'll get that cleaned up before we start. And now we're working with the finer stones, so this is our finer grit. This is our 600. It should really clean up those previous striations and start polishing that blade, get it ready to receive the 1200 and then stropping and lapping. I am still doing a lot of that back and forth circular motion. I'm actually going to remove the grit here. So once again, you want to do a good amount of polishing and cleaning up with this 600 grit before we move up to a finer grit. Because the more we do with each of them, the easier it is on us with the next one to really get the results that we want. And I may end up doing a separate video for, in fact, I think I will do a separate video for the lapping on this because I've got an appointment to get on to tonight, so we'll have a close follow-up video for the finalizing of this knife. Once again, we'll clean that off. Set that in our stone holder and take the 1200 grit. Place that in here. So now we're at the finest of the stones. And they are, the 1200 is a pretty fine grit. And you will feel the difference. So this one, I really want to work a bit to clean that edge up, because this is our last stone, or our last diamond grit steel, before we move on to lapping and polishing this with the lapping films. And so we want to get it as polished as we can. We want to get those micro striations cleaned up real good. So that we have an edge ready to receive the finer grits and polishing. And I don't see like I did when I was 20. But I think I can see well enough to tell what's happening and see when things are shining up here. Add a little more oil. Make sure we're carrying all that grit and shavings away. Help us really refine that edge. Now this final directional, one direction passes should really eliminate any burrs that are there, any burrs that the stone can pick up. And then stropping will take care of the micro burrs, and then we can just get on to polishing. With the lapping films. So I did have to do some reprofiling on this. Took a little longer than just a standard sharpening. But we've got a pretty good looking edge now. Looks pretty clean. Okay, so we'll test it. It is cutting pretty good from heel to tip. Remember, that's the big trick that you want to test there, is make sure that you're cutting all the way to the tip without anything catching. It's not just about cutting paper, but testing the entire length of the knife, and that is just smooth. That is really, it's very sharp, but we're not going for sharp. We've got to take it to the next level and make it shine, make it sparkle. And that's what the customer wants, so that's what we're going to do. But I'm going to do that on another video. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day.